Hey curious minds, get ready for mind-blowing facts about animals, science and more. From surprising talents to bizarre discoveries, this video is packed with fun you won't believe. Sit back, relax and let's dive into the unexpected.
Time travel into the future is not just a concept from science fiction, it is a real and measurable phenomenon, thanks to the effects of time dilation predicted by Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. According to special relativity, time is not an absolute constant but instead slows down for objects moving at speeds close to the speed of light. Similarly, general relativity states that time slows down in stronger gravitational fields. These effects have been experimentally confirmed and are most prominently observed in astronauts aboard the International Space Station, ISS, who experience time at a slightly slower rate compared to people on Earth. Astronauts on the ISS are traveling at approximately 28,000 kilometers per hour, 17,500 miles per hour, relative to Earth. Due to their high velocity, they experience a small but measurable amount of time dilation, meaning that time for them moves slightly slower than it does for those on the planet's surface. When they return to Earth, they have aged a fraction of a second less than people who remained on the ground. Though this difference is minuscule, only a few milliseconds over a typical 6-month mission, it demonstrates that time travel into the future is possible, albeit on a very small scale. This effect becomes significantly more pronounced at much higher speeds, such as those approaching the speed of light. If a spacecraft were to travel at near light speeds, its passengers would experience time much more slowly than people on Earth. Upon returning, they could find that years, decades, or even centuries had passed on Earth, while only a short time had passed for them. This idea, known as the twin paradox, has been supported by experiments with highly precise atomic clocks placed on fast-moving aircraft and satellites, which consistently show time moving slower for the clocks in motion. While time travel into the future via time dilation is scientifically proven, practical applications remain limited. Our current technology does not allow us to reach speeds anywhere near those needed for significant time dilation effects. However, as space travel advances and scientists explore concepts such as near-light speed travel or even wormholes, the potential for meaningful time travel into the future may become more than just a theoretical possibility.
Calcium is the most abundant mineral in the human body, playing a crucial role in numerous physiological processes. More than 99% of the body's calcium is stored in the bones and teeth, where it provides structural strength and rigidity. This calcium is primarily in the form of hydroxyapatite, a crystalline compound that gives bones and teeth their hardness. The remaining less than 1% of calcium is found in the blood muscles and other tissues, where it is essential for nerve function, muscle contraction, blood clotting, and enzyme activity. Bones act as a dynamic reservoir of calcium, constantly undergoing a process called bone remodeling. This involves bone resorption, where specialized cells called osteoclasts break down bone tissue to release calcium into the bloodstream when needed, and bone formation, where osteoblasts rebuild bone by depositing calcium. This balance is tightly regulated by hormones such as parathyroid hormone, calcitonin, and vitamin D, ensuring that blood calcium levels remain stable while maintaining bone strength. Teeth, unlike bones, do not undergo continuous remodeling once they have fully formed. The enamel, which is the hardest substance in the human body, is composed mostly of calcium phosphate and is not replenished once it is lost. This is why maintaining proper calcium intake and good oral hygiene is critical for preventing tooth decay and preserving dental health. Dietary calcium is essential to maintaining bone density and preventing conditions such as osteoporosis, a disease characterized by weakened bones that are more prone to fractures. Good sources of calcium include dairy products, leafy green vegetables, nuts, and fortified foods. Without adequate calcium intake, the body may withdraw calcium from bones to support other critical functions, leading to decreased bone mass over time. Overall, calcium's primary role in bones and teeth underscores its importance in overall health. While only a small percentage of the body's calcium circulates in the bloodstream, this fraction is vital for numerous bodily functions, making it essential to maintain proper dietary intake throughout life.
The genetic similarity between humans and other species provides valuable insight into evolution and the shared ancestry of life on Earth. Humans share approximately 98 to 99% of their DNA with chimpanzees, making them our closest living relatives. This high degree of genetic overlap is a result of humans and chimpanzees evolving from a common ancestor around 6 to 7 million years ago. Despite this similarity, the small percentage of genetic differences accounts for the major distinctions in anatomy, brain function, and behavior between the two species. The genetic differences between humans and chimpanzees are concentrated in key areas related to brain development, immune function, and speech. For example, genes associated with brain growth such as FOXP2, which is linked to language ability, show significant differences between the two species. Additionally, regulatory DNA, non-coding sections of the genome that control how genes are expressed, plays a major role in differentiating humans from chimpanzees, even though the overall genetic sequences are nearly identical. Surprisingly, humans also share about 60% of their DNA with chickens, and roughly 50% with bananas. This is because all living organisms share a common ancestor if we look far enough back in evolutionary history. The genetic similarity between humans and chickens reflects the fundamental biological processes that are conserved across species. Many genes related to basic cellular functions, metabolism, and development are nearly identical, as they are essential for survival and have remained largely unchanged over millions of years. The degree of genetic similarity does not necessarily indicate how similar two organisms appear or behave. For instance, while humans share 98% of their DNA with chimpanzees, the difference in how those genes are regulated leads to vast disparities in intelligence, physical traits, and social behaviors. Likewise, sharing 60% of DNA with chickens does not mean humans are 60% chicken-like. It simply means that certain core biological functions, such as energy production and cell division, are governed by the same genetic instructions. These genetic comparisons highlight the deep connections among all living beings, reinforcing the idea that life evolved from a common origin. Advances in genetics continue to uncover how small genetic changes contribute to the vast diversity of life on Earth, shedding light on human evolution and our place in the natural world.
A single bolt of lightning is an incredibly powerful natural phenomenon, capable of releasing an enormous amount of energy in just a fraction of a second. On average, a lightning bolt carries about 1 billion joules or 1 gigajoule of energy. That's enough to toast approximately 100,000 slices of bread if all of that energy could be efficiently harnessed. This impressive comparison helps put into perspective the sheer power contained in a single flash of lightning. Lightning occurs when electrical charges build up in storm clouds due to the movement of ice particles and water droplets. When the charge difference between the cloud and the ground, or between different parts of the cloud, becomes too great, a rapid discharge of electricity occurs, resulting in a lightning strike. This sudden release of energy heats the surrounding air to temperatures as high as 30,000 Kelvin, about 53,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun, causing the characteristic bright flash and thunderous shockwave. Toasting a slice of bread requires roughly 1,000 joules of energy in a typical household toaster, meaning that the 1 billion joules in a lightning bolt could theoretically power 100,000 toasters at once. However, capturing and storing this energy is practically impossible due to the extremely brief and chaotic nature of a lightning strike. The energy is dispersed almost instantly in the form of heat, light, and sound, making it difficult to convert into usable electricity. Scientists have explored various methods for harnessing lightning energy, but the unpredictability of strikes and the challenge of safely capturing such an intense burst of power make it unfeasible with current technology. Despite this, studying lightning remains important for improving weather forecasting, protecting infrastructure from electrical surges, and understanding the fundamental physics of atmospheric electricity. Ultimately, while a lightning bolt contains enough energy to toast an astonishing number of slices of bread, the reality is that its power is largely untapped and remains one of nature's most dramatic displays of raw energy. The human scalp contains an average of 100,000 hair follicles, though this number can vary depending on factors such as genetics, hair colour and age. Each follicle produces a single strand of hair, and together they form the thick covering of hair that protects the scalp from the sun and helps regulate body temperature. Hair density differs from person to person, with some individuals having as few as 80,000 hairs and others having up to 150,000. Lighter-haired individuals, particularly blondes, tend to have a higher number of hairs, while people with darker or red hair generally have fewer but thicker strands. Hair growth follows a three-phase cycle: the anagen, or growth phase, the catagen, or transition phase, and the telogen, or resting phase. At any given time, about 85 to 90% of a person's hair is in the anagen phase, which can last anywhere from 2 to 7 years. This phase determines how long hair can grow before it naturally falls out and is replaced. The catagen phase lasts only a few weeks, during which hair growth slows, and then the telogen phase occurs, where old hairs are shed and new ones begin to grow in their place. On average, a person loses 50 to 100 hairs per day as part of this natural shedding process. This is considered completely normal and is usually not noticeable, as new hair continuously replaces the lost strands. However, factors such as stress, hormonal changes, poor nutrition and medical conditions can lead to excessive hair loss, known as alopecia. In some cases, hair thinning or baldness can occur when hair follicles shrink and stop producing new hair over time. Hair thickness and texture also depend on genetics and ethnicity. People with straight hair often have round hair shafts, while those with curly or wavy hair have more oval or twisted shafts. The shape of the follicle influences how hair grows, affecting its overall appearance. Additionally, aging causes gradual hair thinning, as hair follicles produce finer and weaker strands over time. While 100,000 hairs may seem like a lot, each strand is incredibly delicate and requires proper care to maintain its health. Regular washing, conditioning, and a balanced diet rich in proteins and vitamins, especially biotin, vitamin D, and iron, can help keep hair strong and resilient. Despite daily shedding and the effects of aging, the human scalp remains an efficient system for producing and maintaining hair throughout most of a person's life.
If you could theoretically drill a hole straight through the centre of the Earth and jump in, it would take approximately 42 minutes to reach the other side, assuming no air resistance and a perfectly symmetrical planet. This idea is based on the physics of simple harmonic motion, where gravity would continuously accelerate you toward the centre and then decelerate you as you move toward the opposite surface. As you fall, gravity would pull you faster and faster until you reach the centre of the Earth, where you would be travelling at your maximum velocity, about 28,000 kilometres per hour, or 17,400 miles per hour. At this point, gravity would begin pulling you back in the opposite direction, causing you to slow down as you approach the other side. Without resistance, you would emerge at the opposite surface with just enough speed to reach the top, only to fall back down again in an endless oscillation, similar to a pendulum. However, in reality, this scenario is not possible due to several major obstacles. First, Earth's core is extremely hot, reaching temperatures around 5,200 degrees Celsius or 9,400 degrees Fahrenheit, which would make survival impossible. Second, the enormous pressure inside the Earth, especially in the inner core, would collapse any tunnel almost instantly. Lastly, air resistance, if not removed, would slow you down, causing you to lose energy until you eventually came to rest at the center of the Earth instead of reaching the other side. If we assume a more practical version of this scenario, where the tunnel is lined to withstand heat and pressure and all the air is removed to eliminate drag, then the 42-minute journey remains a valid theoretical calculation. This concept is sometimes referred to as the gravity train and has been proposed as a thought experiment for high-speed underground transportation. In fact, a similar principle is used in modern vacuum tube transport systems, like the proposed Hyperloop, where low air resistance allows for near frictionless travel. While drilling a hole through the Earth is far beyond our technological capabilities, the physics behind this calculation is an interesting demonstration of how gravity and motion interact on a planetary scale. It also highlights the fascinating, yet extreme possibilities of using Earth's gravity for rapid transit, if only we could overcome the many real-world limitations.
A year on Earth is not exactly 365 days. It is actually about 365.2422 days long. This extra 0.2422 days, approximately 5 hours, 48 minutes and 56 seconds, comes from the fact that Earth does not complete its orbit around the Sun in a whole number of days. Instead, it takes a little over 365 days for Earth to make one full revolution, which is why our calendar system requires adjustments to stay in sync with the seasons. To account for this fractional day, we use leap years. Every 4 years, an extra day is added to the calendar in February, making that year 366 days long instead of 365. This helps compensate for the extra 0.2422 days per year. However, because adding a full day every 4 years slightly overcorrects the difference, since 0.25 days per year is slightly more than 0.2422, additional rules are needed to fine-tune the calendar. The Gregorian calendar, which most of the world follows today, refines this system by skipping leap years in certain cases. Specifically, a year is a leap year if it is divisible by 4, but not if it is divisible by 100, unless it is also divisible by 400. For example, the years 1700, 1800 and 1900 were not leap years, but 2000 was. This rule ensures that the calendar stays aligned with Earth's orbit over long periods, preventing a gradual shift in the timing of seasons. Without this correction, our calendar would slowly drift out of sync with the solar year. Over centuries, summer would eventually occur in what we now call winter, and vice versa. Ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians and Romans, struggled with this problem before refining their calendars with leap years to maintain accuracy. Even with this system, minor variations in Earth's rotation and orbit still cause small discrepancies over long timescales. Scientists use atomic clocks and astronomical observations to make periodic adjustments, such as leap seconds, to keep our timekeeping as precise as possible. While we commonly think of a year as exactly 365 days, the reality is that Earth's orbit is slightly more complex, requiring these small but crucial corrections to keep our calendars aligned with the natural world.
A single grain of sand, though incredibly small, contains an astonishing number of atoms, roughly 100 quintillion. That's 10 to the power of 20, or 100 million atoms. This vast number is due to the minuscule size of atoms, which are the fundamental building blocks of all matter. Even the tiniest objects we can see with the naked eye are made up of an unfathomably large number of these microscopic particles. Most grains of sand are composed primarily of silicon dioxide, commonly known as quartz. This mineral consists of silicon and oxygen atoms bonded together in a repeating crystalline structure. Since oxygen and silicon are relatively small atoms, a typical grain of sand, measuring roughly 0.5 millimeter in diameter, can hold an enormous number of them. The exact number of atoms in a grain of sand depends on its size, composition and density, but for quartz, the estimate of 100 quintillion atoms provides a reasonable approximation. To put this into perspective, the number of atoms in a grain of sand is vastly greater than the number of stars in our Milky Way galaxy, which is estimated to be around 100 to 400 billion. In fact, if you compared the number of atoms in a handful of sand to the number of stars in the observable universe, which is estimated at around 200 billion trillion, the two figures would actually be in the same ballpark, showing how even the smallest objects at an atomic scale hold unimaginable complexity. Atoms themselves are composed of subatomic particles, protons and neutrons in the nucleus, with electrons orbiting around them. Despite being the fundamental units of matter, atoms are mostly empty space. If the nucleus of an atom were the size of a marble, the electrons would orbit at distances comparable to a football stadium. This means that the massive number of atoms in a grain of sand is made up of an incredible amount of empty space at the subatomic level. While we typically think of sand grains as tiny, their atomic makeup highlights just how intricate and densely packed matter is at the smallest scales. This mind-boggling number of atoms in a single grain is a testament to the vast complexity of the physical world, where even the most mundane objects are composed of an incredible microscopic universe of particles.
The human brain is incredibly efficient at processing visual information, capable of recognizing and interpreting an image in as little as 13 milliseconds. This rapid processing speed was discovered in a study conducted by MIT neuroscientists, who found that people could correctly identify images flashed on a screen for just 13 milliseconds, far faster than previously thought. This finding suggests that the brain can extract meaningful information almost instantaneously, supporting our ability to navigate the world quickly and efficiently. This remarkable speed is due to the brain's visual processing system, which is optimized for detecting patterns, motion, and familiar objects. When light enters the eye, it is captured by the retina, where specialized cells called photoreceptors convert it into electrical signals. These signals are sent to the visual cortex at the back of the brain via the optic nerve, where they are processed and interpreted. The brain does not analyze an image all at once, but instead breaks it down into different features, such as shape, color, and movement, before rapidly reconstructing it into a meaningful perception. The ability to process images so quickly is crucial for survival. In evolutionary terms, early humans relied on rapid visual recognition to detect predators, find food, and identify threats or opportunities in their environment. Even today, our brains prioritize processing visual stimuli related to faces, danger, and movement faster than other types of information. This speed is also what allows us to recognize familiar faces, read words at a glance, and react to fast-moving objects almost instantly. Interestingly, despite this speed, the brain does not simply take a snapshot of an image. Instead, it continuously predicts and fills in missing information based on past experiences and expectations. This is why we can recognize partially obscured objects or understand blurred images. Our brain reconstructs the missing details in real time. This predictive ability also plays a role in optical illusions, where the brain's rapid processing sometimes leads to misinterpretations. The discovery that the brain can process an image in just 13 milliseconds highlights the astonishing efficiency of our nervous system. It also has implications for technology, such as artificial intelligence and machine vision, as scientists aim to develop computers that can match the human brain's ability to recognize and process images in an instant. While computers are improving in image recognition, the human brain remains unmatched in its ability to process visual information rapidly and accurately with minimal effort.
The concept of zero as a number is a relatively recent development in human history, emerging about 1,500 years ago. While ancient civilizations had ways to indicate the absence of a value, such as leaving a space or using a placeholder symbol, the idea of zero as both a numeral and a mathematical concept was a major breakthrough that transformed mathematics and science. The origins of zero can be traced back to ancient India in the 5th to 7th centuries CE, where scholars such as Brahmagupta developed rules for using zero in calculations. Brahmagupta, an Indian mathematician and astronomer, was the first to write down rules for arithmetic involving zero, including operations like addition and subtraction. Before this, civilizations such as the Babylonians and Mayans used placeholders for zero in their numerical systems, but they did not treat it as a number in its own right. The introduction of zero was revolutionary because it allowed for more advanced mathematical operations, including algebra and calculus. It also made calculations easier, particularly in positional number systems like the decimal system, where zero serves as a crucial placeholder. Without zero, performing arithmetic with large numbers would be far more cumbersome, as seen in ancient Roman numerals, which lacked a true zero. Zero gradually spread from India to the Islamic world, where scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi and Al-Samawal helped refine and popularize its use. By the 12th century, zero was introduced to Europe through translations of Arabic mathematical texts. The Italian mathematician Fibonacci, known for the Fibonacci sequence, played a key role in promoting the Hindu-Arabic numeral system, including zero, which eventually replaced the cumbersome Roman numeral system. Beyond mathematics, the concept of zero had profound implications in philosophy and science. It influenced the development of calculus, pioneered by Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, and played a key role in the rise of modern computing, where binary code, using zeros and ones, serves as the foundation for digital technology. Despite its now universal acceptance, zero was initially met with resistance. Many ancient cultures struggled with the idea of nothingness as a number, as numbers were traditionally seen as representing tangible quantities. Today, however, zero is fundamental to almost every branch of mathematics, physics, engineering and computer science, proving that what was once a radical concept has become an essential part of modern life. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed these incredible facts. If you found them fascinating, there's so much more to discover. Stay tuned for our next video, where we uncover even more mind-blowing facts about the world around you. You won't believe what's next.